Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ammar bin Zahari, dispatch number CN190090, with cooperation of my supervisor, T. Ashaiful Rizal bin Masrul. I'm from Department of Mechanical Engineering Technology, Faculty of Engineering Technology. I will I will explain about my project Sarjana Muda 1 is the title of Characteristic of Pulp and Paper produced from oil palm empty fruit bunches PEFB fibers blended with recycled paper. For my PSM, for my first PSM, it includes first chapter, Introduction, chapter 2, Literature Review, chapter 3, Methodology, and the last chapter, Expected Result. First, for the research background in my introduction, according to the Malaysia Palm Oil Council 2021A, Malaysia produced 25.8% of global palm oil and exported 34.3%, making it the world's second biggest producer of palm oil in 2020. The European Union remains Malaysia's third largest palm oil export market after India and China. Malaysia exported 1.8 million metric tons of palm oil to the European Union in 2020. Recycled paper uses between 28 and 70% less energy to manufacture. In addition, less water is consumed. This is because the pulping required to turn wood into paper consumes most of the energy utilized in the process. Recycled paper is rarely rebleached, and when it is usually done with oxygen rather than chlorine. As a result, the amounts of dioxins released into the environment because of chlorine bleaching operation is reduced. The use of recycled paper reduces the use of non-renewable resources and can result in an environmentally beneficial product. Next, for the problem statement, recycling action can avoid the destruction of forests and even the entire environmental system. This waste is reinstated into the municipal solid waste collection system is currently disposed of via landfill. Burn or discard contribute to environmental pollution because they generate gases comprising particulates such as tar and soot. Irresponsible disposal of PFB contributes to increased methane emissions into the atmosphere. And the last one, EFP fibers are advantageous economically for fiber reinforced composite applications in this research. For my scope and limitation, PFB pulp will be produced by using soda AQ pulping method. Observation on PFB soda AQ pulp properties. Recycled paper materials selected are ONP and OCB. The fourth one was 5 different compositions ratio of PFB pulp blended with recycled paper. Paper with 120 GSM of grammage will be produced. Evaluate the paper physical and mechanical properties. And lastly, paper surface morphology will be observed with scanning electron microscopy (SEM). Significance of study: using EFB recycled paper composites in pulp and paper manufacture can assist minimize solid waste, which is plentiful in the oil palm industry. EFB assisted in boosting the moisture and nutritional content of the soil while simultaneously reducing soil compaction. Recycling is beneficial to the health of the surrounding environment. Pulp and paper history. China's first authentic paper, credited to Shailen in 105 AD, was manufactured from Jinian hemp, as is evident from the paper's composition Cannabis sativa. The white paper industry in England was well established by the end of the 17th century. The first paper mill was constructed in 1495 at Hertford. The primary component of paper, firstly, was cotton. The natural substance is pulp to allow separation of the individual vegetable strands, and the pulp is then washed to remove pulping chemicals. Demand and statistics. For the first table at the left side, in 2020, the global market for paper packaging survived the pandemic-induced slump and remained stable. Containerboard profited from a significant shift to consumer goods consumption, and this excellent market growth was able to compensate for the weakening of other grades. Containerboard and other main grades rebounded well which provided the greatest paper packaging demand rise since 2010. In 2021, robust demand recoveries will spread across all grades, propelled by continued tailwinds for containerboard and a brightening outlook for services. Throughout 2022, increasing opposition to single-use plastic will continue to generate chances for paper-based alternatives, will the trend continue to gain momentum in Europe. Material of paper production. Paper production material is divided by three: wood-based material, non-wood-based material, and recycled material. For wood-based material, there is softwood and hardwood. Non-wood-based material such as straw, reed, bamboo, and oil palm branch. Last one, recycled material, all carton board and old newspaper. Next, the overview of EFB. In Malaysia, the empty fruit bunch EFB is considered one of the most plentiful bioenergy resources due to its abundance among the palm oil biomass waste. Because of its high water content, EFB typically has a lower combustion temperature and produces less energy during the combustion process. PEFB fibers are utilized in the manufacturing of biofuel, fertilizer, and compost. PEFB morphology at the left side of the table shown that structure morphology PEFB fibers. It can be shown that the average length of PEFB fibers range from 0.76 mm to 1.81 mm. PEFB fiber is classified as extremely short 0.5 to 0.7 mm, to intermediate 0.9 to 1.6 mm fiber by the IAWA or International Association of Food Anatomy. On the left side, although acacia wood is made up of what are technically considered small fibers, the average fiber length is longer than that of PEFB fibers. Compared to the diameter of PEFB fiber, the lumen is enormous. Acacia wood species have a significantly reduced Runkel ratio compared to PEFB fiber due to their thinner fiber walls, and this demonstrates that acacia fiber is more easily processed than PEFB fiber. Chemical and mechanical pulping. Chemical pulping is a process that decomposes wood pulp through the application of chemicals along with the necessary heat and pressure. This method dissolves the lignin along with other components of the interfiber matrix material as well as the lignin found in the fiber walls. For mechanical pulping, the process of breaking down the bonds that hold the fibers together is referred to as mechanical pulping. In the process of mechanical pulping, the goal is to preserve the major component of the lignin to ensure that a large capacity of pulp that persists, acceptable strength, qualities, and brightness may be obtained. Next, advantages of soda EQ. It is well known that EQ increases the pace of delinification, allowing for a reduction in pulping time, temperature, or chemical charge, and an increase in pulp production. AQ was an exciting addition to chemical pulping. Although the net impact was modest, AQ is one of a very limited number of pulping chemistry advanced in decades. Previous research on pulp blending illustrate some previous studies that observing the effects on pulp blending and also chemical PEFB pulp. The findings of these studies motivates the current study on blending composition selection and pulping condition. The study by Rushdan indicates that PEFB soda AQ fiber is suitable to enhance the recycled material physical and mechanical characteristics. The previous studies had successfully proven that EFB pulp could be produced by chemical soda AQ pulping. For the conclusion of Chapter 2, Literature Review, in summary, the literature review covered the pulp and papermaking process with an emphasis on PEFB. In addition, the process of EFB pulp and papermaking has been studied, including every possible parameter that could influence the morphology of the EFB fiber before producing a sheet of paper. Soda pulping was selected for the study research. This research will increase the breadth and development of pulp and paper production using EFB fiber. This is the flowchart for Chapter 3 methodology. We start and then we identify the problem statement, literature review, preparation of EFB fiber, soda pulping process, blending composition, paper making process until we got 120 GSM a sheet of paper, testing method, and then we got a feedback, data analysis, results, discussion and conclusion, and then we end all the process. Soda pulping process. First process was fiber moisture content. Amount of moisture present in EFB is one of the factors that helps determine the capacity and ability of EFB. Moisture content of the EFB specimen must first be documented before any procedure can get underway. The moisture content of the EFB fibers is determined by using an oven drying method, and the process is allowed to run for around 7 hours before the findings are obtained. The continuous process, rotary digester. A rotary digester was utilized to boil the raw materials, which was EFB, before mixing EFB fibers with a solution of sodium hydroxide in the rotary digester. The oven dry weight of EFB was determined and weighed. Washing process. The EFB fiber pulps that had been softened in the rotary digester were thrown into the hydropulper along with water for 5 minutes to flush out any surplus fiber. Next, screening process. This is done to guarantee that the fibers gathered are of a sufficient fineness for the subsequent process. Spin drying process. The pulp was centrifuged in a pulp washing centrifugal machine to reduce the amount of moisture and water that was present. Dispense the dry fiber. The machine known as the commercial mixer was given the task of dispersing the pulps. And the last process was screen yield percentage. Using gravimetric analysis, the screen pulp yield, total pulp yield, and screen reject were each determined as a percentage of the OD raw material. The purpose of the yield percentage is to produce a fiber to pulp ratio that is easily measurable and that can be kept in storage. Recycle pulp preparation. The first preparation was recycled material collection. The selected recycled paper that will use are OCP and ONP. Shredding process, where shredding each sheet of paper begins. This is taken to ensure that every part of the paper, including the tiniest part, is handled correctly. On the soaking process, each individual sheet should be soaked in water and left alone for 24 hours to soften and break down the material. Washing process. The paper should be transferred into the hydropulper while it is still soaked to rid the moist recycled paper of any extra fiber that may have been present. Screening process. The screening process, which is similar to the soda pulping process, when carried out, this is done to ensure that the fibers that are obtained are of a fineness that is suitable for the process that follow after this. Next, speed drying process. The pulp that had been separated from the silk net will go through the process of spin drying. Once it has been screened, the pulp was centrifuged to remove some of the water and minimize the quantity of moisture that was there. Dispersing process. The objective of any dispersing process should be to achieve an option level of homogenization of pulp, breakdown of stickies and dirt, and development of fiber characteristics. Lastly, storing. The recycled paper was kept at a temperature of 6 degrees in the chiller. Blending process. First process for blending is moisture content. The moisture content of the EFB and recycled paper specimens must first be documented. This is required so that the genuine dry weight of the specimens of both materials may be precisely calculated. Pulp weighting. Next, weighting of air-dried weight of each blending material based on different composition according to 120 GSM basis weight, 42 gram oven-dried pulp. Next, we go through blending. Blending process where both material mixing up together according to the composition of ratio. This integrating process, the following well-blended pulp is placed in the disintegrator for 50,000 revolutions per minute with 2 liters of water. Lastly, for the blending process, preparation of stock. After the recycled pulp had been disintegrated, it was placed in a stock divider. Preparation of stock in the wide sense of providing an appropriate fiber suspension. Next, the paper making process. The first pulp weighting. To create paper with a weight of 130 GCM, the yield must be precisely measured 2.44 gram as demonstrated by equation. The yield weight was determined using a scale. Pulp incineration process. The incineration procedure is carried out in compliance with the PEFB standard to produce hand sheet. Stock preparation. Let to simmer for a few moments. 1 liter of pulp was taken for sample rectification and sampling for the stock divider operation yielding 120 GCM paper. For the freeness, the weight at which a dilute pulp suspension grains is referred to as freeness. Stock correction. The stock correction was evaluated to estimate the new volume that needed to be added to the stock divider. Hand sheet preparation. At this stage of the paper making process, it was common to produce a large number of sheets of paper from a gallon liter of pulp. Sample drying process. On the heated plate is placed a sample of pulp or a wet sheet of paper. Closing the cover initiates the drying process. Press machine. The pressing process is to provide a uniform flat shape for the hand sheet of paper. And lastly, the drying process. This is done to preserve the standard and quality of paper. The testing on this project: physical properties, grammage and thickness. For mechanical properties, tensile index, rustic index, shearing index and folding number. SEM, scanning electron microscope. Create image of a sample surface by scanning it with a focus swing on electrons. Ability to image a relatively large area of the specimen. Ability to image bulk materials, variety of analytical modes available. Lastly, for the expected results, characteristic of pulp and paper is expected to be enhanced by the increment of recycled paper. On the basis of the overall results, it is anticipated that PEFB fiber blended with recycled paper is suitable for use as a paper making fiber.